When we talk about safety in Mexico, it makes me realize that right now in Montreal, there are certain parts of the city in Quebec that are more dangerous, and I say really more dangerous, than walking down the street here in the night in the Malecon of Puerto Vallarta. But we really like the fact that here there's kind of like a philosophy that we noticed in Puerto Vallarta that it's like no pasa nada. It's like everything's going to be okay no matter what. So for the cost of living, to be quite frank, hi, so I'm Jessie Cabello, and I am a proud mother of two beautiful children, Emma and Maxime. And I also am proud wife of David, my husband. We've been together for 12 years already. And so basically, I was born in Montreal, Canada, and I'm also half Mexican on my father's side. So I would say I'm a hybrid. And I have traveled to many places. I've lived in many places in the world since the age of 2 until I finally settled in Quebec for 16 years. And then, as an agreement between my husband, David, and I, we came to the conclusion that we really wanted to have a better life. We wanted to offer new opportunities to our kids and decided to move to Mexico. So basically, I am also a business owner, and I have had my business online since approximately 2021. So following post-pandemic, I started looking into that and different opportunities. I was already working for an agency, a marketing agency online. And yeah, so I really thought like, how can I have my own business? And I just felt like it was really something that would help me be more present with my kids while working in what I love to do, what passionates me, and how I can serve others as well. So I've been juggling between those hats of being a mom and being a business owner. And of course, including in all that our project of moving to Mexico as a family. So what I would say that has motivated me the most to move from Quebec after like 16 years of being settled there, after being with my family and friends and actually having roots there, even though I was a nomad for several years before, is that I've always been someone that prefers warm weather. And ever since I was a child, I actually grew up in San Diego, California. So I have like this space in my heart for the Pacific side, like the Pacific side and the sea and the calm that it brings. There's a special like lifestyle that comes with it. And I felt like in Quebec, I was feeling a bit of constriction, like basically with the restrictions that came of the post-pandemic, everything that was happening, it was pretty much what motivated me the most to move and go like, why don't I just go back to Mexico and see how it is? It was actually my husband's idea to come here, but I supported him in this choice, and I was like, well, yeah, why not? I mean, this definitely so many things to explore. We already love the culture. I love Quebec as well, but I really feel more aligned in my values, in my lifestyle, and with the culture that Mexico has to offer. I've lived in several places in Mexico. It's a bit of a strange background, I'd say, or a typical background where I lived a couple of years in Mexico City. I lived in Guadalajara as well with my family before moving to Quebec. And then when we came back, well, actually, when we arrived in 2022, we decided to move to San Luis Potosí, where my father's family resides. Okay, so basically, it's a bunch of cousins, and most of the family has passed away, or they've moved to the USA, as many Mexicans do, or they immigrate, to other countries like Canada. But For us, it was important to make sure that we explore Mexico as much as possible before deciding and where we wanted to really, have our roots in, okay, and go like, okay, this is the city where we want to live. So, we traveled during the year that we were in San Luis Potosí. We traveled to several places like Guanajuato. We went to Playa del Carmen, Riviera Maya. We went to like several cities around, like Queretaro and all of these different cities. We also came here to Puerto Vallarta for about like 10 days to really kind of like catch the pulse of the city. And we absolutely fell in love. We just went like, okay, it's a no-brainer. So we moved here to Puerto Vallarta in July 2023. So we've been here for about a year and a half. Puerto Vallarta really, I feel like it connects me back to like my childhood memories in San Diego, California, where I used to go to a beach that's actually called La Jolla. So it's the same name as the building where I live. And so it brings me back to that connection that I had already about wanting to live close to the sea and the mountains. So it's basically that mix and the lifestyle of the Pacific. You know, that famous kind of like surfer vibe. So David and I we're very chill, or as much as we can, right? Because we do have small children, and of course sometimes it can get pretty hectic at home. But we really like the fact that here there's kind of like a philosophy that we noticed in Puerto Vallarta. It's like no pasa nada. It's like everything's gonna be okay no matter what. Rather you're in a hurricane season, rather there's no internet, rather there's no electricity. There's what we love about PV is that ever since we got here, there is a community feeling. There's like people that are willing to help you, to hand you a hand and to introduce you to other people, rather Mexicans or expats or anything. And that is what we were really lacking in Canada, like that there is much more individuality over there. And that is not aligned with what we want as a family. So I would say those are the main things that we love. We also love the food, the variety of the food, and all the activities and the culture. It's just, yeah, we love it. So I would say, as for challenges, of course, it comes with the package deal, I would say, of moving to another country. Even though even though I'm half Mexican, I had traveled here in Puerto Vallarta with my family. It's not the same to actually move and not move by myself, but with my whole family. So I feel like the first and most important challenge that I had was kind of being like the captain of the boat, or going like, okay, you're the one that speaks Spanish fluently. So, giving that support to my husband so that, he learns Spanish, and he's still, learning. He's been taking classes, making sure the kids learn the language as well. So of course, it's a challenge because we speak French at home and we want to keep it that way. For us, it's really important to keep like, the maternal language. There's also the English because there's so many people that speak English here, and we feel like it's the passport language to the world. But basically, I would say the main challenges was really settling all of those pieces. Like, okay, so the school, we wanted them to go to a Mexican school that they are like-minded, that they can learn Spanish. And right now they're the best. Like, they speak Spanish fluently, they're learning English, and we keep the French. I would say like the biggest challenges right now is accepting the fact that Puerto Vallarta has a little bit of chaos, always kind of like omnipresent, I would say. There's always something that's like broken, something that's not working very well. And it's kind of like just accepting it, going like, oh, we don't have internet again today. Well, what can we do about it? Maybe run to a cafe or just reschedule. Or, like sometimes electricity goes off and there's like no reason why. It doesn't happen that often, but it's just like, yeah, there's like things break all the time. It's not the reality that we had in Quebec, but we're getting used to it and we're like, it's the price for paradise. So for the cost of living, to be quite frank, it's very similar to what we had in Quebec, as in like we're not necessarily saving money because like when we were in San Luis Potosi, the cost of living is a bit less, although it is an industrial and colonial city. So it might be a little more expensive than certain cities in Mexico. But PV, I would say, yeah, it's pretty similar, despite the fact that we have found like several hacks that not only make like it helps us eat better. So let's say we start with the grocery, okay? We found several hacks that are like help us to maintain about like I would say around 500 Canadian dollars per week, you know, with the restaurants and like the groceries. And what we do is that we go to the market, like there's a Saturday market, so we get our fresh vegetables and fruit. But it's called a tianguis here, so you can also get even like used clothes, and you can get like toys, and you get like a whole bunch of stuff, and you can eat on the spot for really not expensive at all. So those are one of the hacks that have helped us here, and you know, getting like produce, like fresh produce that comes from like farms, and like it's more organic or seasonal, so that helps a lot. And it helps also with the expenses when we go to the grocery. It's like, okay, what's much limited, we'll do our Costco runs approximately monthly. For rent, I would say it's a bit higher than what we had in Quebec, but of course it's part of the lifestyle that we wanted. You know, we have like a pool here that is available for us to use, large space, like it's a bigger space, and it's very close to services. So basically, we it's about like 2,200 Canadian for the rent monthly. And as for school, as I mentioned, we absolutely love the kids' school. The monthly tuition is about like 1,000, including the lunch for both kids. So also equivalent to, I would say, what we were paying in the private daycare when we were back in Quebec. So of course, there are always kind of like these spontaneous expenses that we might have, but it's roughly similar to what we have from Quebec, but the difference is that the lifestyle is much better for us. We really feel like we upgraded our life here in Puerto Vallarta. When we talk about safety in Mexico, it makes me realize that right now in Montreal, there are certain parts of the city in Quebec that are more dangerous, and I say really more dangerous, than walking down the street here in the night in the Malecon of Puerto Vallarta. Okay? And maybe 10 years ago, you would have never thought that. I mean, I used to walk in the streets of Montreal or Quebec at certain hours, you know, back in my nightlife times, and I was not scared of anything, right? Now I would not even think about doing it. Like, not even, it wouldn't even cross my mind to go in daytime in certain streets in Montreal or even Quebec City. And it's like, I don't even, I mean, I haven't been to Vancouver for a very long time, but I know it's like in Toronto and other places in Canada as well, US as well. And whenever somebody asks me, like, hey, how about Mexico? Okay, so first of all, it's a country. There are certain places in Mexico that I would say, yeah, you know, I would avoid that. You know, there are certain states in the frontier, I would say, that have like cartels that might be, there might be places where I'd say avoid them. Um, Once again, ask around locals. Try to not like give too much credit to the media. I would say like, you know, like massive media. There's alternative media as well, but I think the most important thing here is to be discerned, like really discernment about, okay, let's say you want to move to Mexico, and the government or the media is saying this place is like a hot zone because there was this conflict. Okay, Well, when I'm saying be discerning, it's like, well, when did that happen? What was the what was the context? Was it a woman walking at 4 a.m. in a street in a city where there's like a whole bunch of conflict? Or it's just like something that happened, right? So kind of like that's where I say use your discernment, do your research. Here in Puerto Vallarta, it's supposed to be, I think it's like what, the third safest city in Mexico, third or fourth, something like that. Yeah. So it's one of the safest cities in Mexico. Okay. That doesn't mean that it's like, yeah, you can go around at 4 in the morning and this like less privileged zone and not be like, nothing's going to happen. Like there might be a risk. Okay. It's just like common sense to me. Like just make sure you're not like blingy blingy. Like really use your common sense. But Puerto Vallarta is possibly one of the most safest places in Mexico to live. It is one of the main reasons why we chose Puerto Vallarta, because we have a family, we have kids, we want them to feel safe. We want to feel safe. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that really base your opinion on safety not only on what the media will say or before like travel agencies sometimes it's because they want to direct you to another zone. Like I've seen that a lot, unfortunately. It's like Riviera Maya, like Playa del Carmen, Cancun. I live there, right? And I know what it's all about. It's a lot of partying. It's beautiful too. But there's a reason why we didn't decide to move there. And there's a lot of like safety issues that have been going on there. And when we compare it to Puerto Vallarta, safety wise, Puerto Vallarta was much better for us and our family. So for us, it was like a no brainer. We're like, that definitely checks the safety box, right? So yeah, consider several factors and use your own discernment to make the right choice. As a mom, as a business owner, this is really something that excites me, that really touches my heart because it is part of my mission, you know, to help other women, other mothers that are working, that have a business to actually more than survive but thrive and keeping balance. So for me, I would say that is the most important thing is like how do I maintain balance and harmony, right? And those are big words, balance and harmony. It's like, okay, it's not like a quick fix. It's something that you work on, that I work on daily. And I know there is always space for improvement. But what helps me when I'm questioning myself about how balanced is this? How, like, where am I lacking harmony in what is happening in my family? What really helps me is to come back to what are my values? What are the values in my family? What is most important for us? What do I need? What are my husband's needs? What are my kids' needs? And really kind of like sitting down and having an open discussion about it and seeing like what I feel that really helps me maintain all those hats is having those open discussions where we're like, okay, how can we be the best team between my husband and I so that, you know, he can work, I can work, and the kids can have the attention that they need, right? So it's really a daily discussion. It's a daily improvement, but we do always do the best that we can, respecting, you know, like boundaries, exploring possibilities. We have been looking into support. So we have somebody that comes and helps us for the cleaning. Yeah, like community support also, like seeing like how can we exchange services and certain things. And even for the future, you know, like, oh, okay, well, maybe you know, for like babysitting, like we put together like date nights, like monthly date nights, so that makes us like have like a break for the kids, and the kids love the babysitter, so everybody like it's always a win-win situation like that. So, in a nutshell. All right, so social lifestyle. Being a mompreneur, I will be really honest. The first year that we moved here to Puerto Vallarta, the whole social sphere, I voluntarily dedicated it to family ties. Okay, so meeting neighbors, and becoming friends with the moms and the dads that are neighbors that had kids too, and then introduced me to other parents with kids, and then we would have like these play dates. And for the first year, it was all about like play dates. So my social life as a woman and mother and business owner was mainly focused on that. And it was a choice that I made because that was my priority at the time. Then I left to Quebec. Well, we left actually, the whole family, for like 5 weeks. And during that traveling and seeing my friends and family after 2 years of living in Mexico, I realized that it was time for me, when I came back to PV, to think about like, well, what about me as a woman, my social life, and start making my own friends. So then I was like, okay, well, what am I waiting for? So I arrived, and then I'm pretty much it's easy for me to make friends. That's what I've noticed, like, to actually get to know people. I know I have a very charismatic side, but I also have a hermit side to myself. So I kind of like to stay at home and can get a bit picky. But I was like, okay, I just want to like put myself out there. So I started going into Facebook groups and looking into the networking, going into meetups, and recently created my own group of like moms that work and have a business. And yeah, so right now I would say for the past 3 months approximately, I feel like I finally am having a social life. I love dancing. So I try to like, carve in some time for me to go and dance a bit. I've been doing also like workout dancing as well. Or sometimes just like me time, and I sometimes I might even like get to know somebody. So yeah, exploring for now. So as I mentioned, like in my free time, okay, so free time, wow. I feel like that phrase is really such a kind of like, it's possible, honestly. It's possible for a mom that works or has a business to have free time. But then again, like, what does that really mean? I think that's the question. Like, for me, free time is basically, I have a morning routine. Okay. So I decided my kids, they wake up around 7 to go to school. So I wake up 1 hour early. So that's my free time. I get ready, the usual. But, I take that time just for me to write, to do some meditation, to just like reflect. And already that is something that I have been incorporating into my daily life as much as possible. There are days that I'm like, oh no, God, I need to sleep more, so I snooze. If not, we, like, my husband and I have kind of like this agreement where we don't have to ask ourselves like permission to have like time off. We just like tell one another like, hey, I'm just gonna like go and take some hours off, even though it's like the time that I'm supposed to be working. But as an entrepreneur, I make my own schedule, and I try to work like when the kids are at school, obviously, so that they can have their, like, my attention after. But from time to time, I'll carve out like a couple of hours, and I'll just, yeah, just like explore, maybe go walking on the beach. I love going to cafes and write and read, dancing, as I mentioned. And yeah, just whatever pops up naturally. If you'd like to contact me, right now I'm running an online business, so it's easier for me to contact me. I'll put the my social media contact in the description with Landy, and as well as my email. I have a website. Most of my work right now is in French because, of course, we recently moved, and I've been translating everything in English. But don't be shy. Like, I definitely offer services in English, so coaching and consulting, leadership, and business growth as well. So basically, if you are open to spirituality, to esotericism, and want to feel aligned in what you are doing, like really aligned in your essence, in your work, in your family, in everything, please don't hesitate to contact me. I do offer readings and coaching and consulting, and I like to dig into the numbers with strategy as well. Okay, so yeah, looking forward to connect with you. Thank you. So what has changed since I'm living in Mexico? I would say almost everything. I have a few tips for people that would like to learn Spanish. First, don't think about it too much. If you already know that you want to move to Mexico, start right away.